Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of JRPG. Today, we're going to do things a little differently. Though I haven't really established a norm here so far, I feel like this following episode may be a little bit different than most. If you enjoy this video, let me know, and perhaps I'll do more like this, or see what others I can work into this format. I came to the conclusion of doing this episode a little bit differently because something always bothered me about games by Imagic. The games for the Atari and the Intellivision look similar, and actually caused a situation that happened to me that I'll mention later in this video. Because of all this, one question really boggled my mind, and it was, why did Imagic make games that look similar on the Atari and the Intellivision? To answer this question, I'm going to go into a brief history of Imagic.
Do you remember Activision? Sure you do. There are game companies still around making games like Call of Duty. But did you know that they were the first third-party game company in America? But this video isn't about Activision. This video is about the second third-party game company in America, Imagic. Imagic was founded by former members of Mattel and Atari. Around this time, people who worked for Mattel and the Intellivision and Atari's self-titled home console wouldn't receive recognition for the games that they were making or royalty rights for programming them. A speculation of mine would be that Atari may have had the mentality that the employees were just employees, so they were just contributing to the company and doing work instead of making a piece of art, of history. But again, that is just my speculation. The employees at this company received low pay as well. All these issues combined are what made these former employees decide to form their own company and make the games they wanted and receive royalty rights from them as well. Some of the games made were their own takes on games that were already out, and in doing so ended up facing legal action from Atari for it. The mistake in Atari allowing their employees to get away contributed in multiple companies making games and allowing the market to get convoluted, contributing to the video game crash of 1983. The video game crash is one that Imagic never recovered from and ended up having some of their company's major assets ending up being absorbed into Activision. Some of the reasons for their demise was being unable to snag some major retailers and not developing games for newer consoles. At this time, Imagic was an upcoming giant and a major player in the gaming industry, and now they are just faintly remembered. Imagic has produced some good games for the Intellivision/Atari in its heyday, and now some rare and unreleased games are quite expensive and sought out by collectors. The games that sold well and added to Imagic's wealth at the time are cheap now. Games like Demon Attack and Dragonfire, while games like Atlantis 2 and Cubicolor only have a few cartridges in existence due to promotional reasons or being released at the end of the console's life cycle.
If you get a chance to play these games, I highly suggest it, as some closely resemble games that you may already be familiar with, like Missile Command or Space Invaders. Though faint, Imagic's mark on the gaming industry is still there, and will still be an ever-present piece of video game history. These pinched edge cartridges are the only remaining remnants of Imagic. Now for a quick little personal story. I was very unfamiliar with Imagic until one day when I was browsing Atari games on Amazon. I noticed a game called Demon Attack, which, unbeknownst to me at the time, was one of Imagic's biggest sellers. I bought it from a seller on Amazon, and when it arrived, I was anxious to plug it in and play. But to my surprise, the game wouldn't fit. It was then that I noticed that the pins on the cartridge were too long and couldn't fit in the Atari 2600. After some research online, I found that Imagic made games for both the Intellivision and the Atari. Thus the confusion. How strange that it is that it's so hard to identify which system it's for when it doesn't even say. I mean, this says for use with Atari in very little letters that aren't very big or descriptive. They don't stand out, but just to me it seems like poor marketing. Having games up and not knowing. If I saw this on the shelf, it says foreign television right here. Otherwise, I wouldn't know if this is an Atari or an Intellivision game. From the back, you can barely tell, except for a small little picture of the Intellivision right there. I was later able to keep the game and got it refunded and bought this copy of the game for the Atari that worked. But all this combined is what started me on my quest to find out why Imagic had developed similar looking games and how this game could have been mistaken for an Atari game. Let's check out some differences between the Atari and Intellivision cartridges.
The Atari carts were easier to display than the Intellivision counterparts. Personally, this would be much more sought after for me, but it makes it overall harder for collectors. My copy of Demon Attack has to stand upright because there's no way to display it horizontally. Atari carts are also bigger than Intellivisions, and the Intellivision cartridges won't play in an Atari 2600. However, they will play in an Atari 5200. Atari's pins are also smaller, while Intellivisions are bigger.
Throughout this video, I've been explaining about Imagic, but why really did they have similar designs? I guess this is all up to speculation, since the company is no more. But I think it's because they designed it so that it identified with the company, not so much with the actual console on it. Whether it be an Intellivision game or an Atari game, you knew it was by Imagic because of the striping and the artwork. But what console it was kind of uncertain. Unlike the games of today that use the colors and designs defaulted by the console-owning companies, back then the companies used to use their own colors. Can you imagine how it would be if Bungie or Capcom released their own box art, their own colors? If this was a Bungie game sitting on the shelf and all you had were little tiny words that said what system it was for, I'm sure you wouldn't be able to tell what system it was for if it had the same designs and colors. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this journey into Imagic's history and that it helped answer any questions that you may have had about the company. I know it did for me. If you have any more questions, comment in the comment section below and we'll see what kind of answers we can get to. Thanks for watching and see you next episode.